Imagine waking up one day and seeing the world around you for the first time in years. That's exactly what we are about to witness today. In this emotional video, we will follow the journey of a man who, after years of darkness due to blindness, regains his sight thanks to a revolutionary medical breakthrough. But what he discovers upon seeing his home again goes beyond any expectation. Prepare yourself for a story of rediscovery and surprise, as what he finds in his home will leave him shocked. This is not just a story of personal triumph, but also a revelation that will touch your heart deeply. But first, I would like to ask for your support by giving a like and subscribing to the channel to receive all our stories. It costs nothing and helps the channel a lot. Now, let's get to know this story in detail. The sun shone brightly in the blue sky as David and Stephanie drove down the winding road, ready to celebrate their first wedding anniversary with a special trip. The car, a simple but reliable vehicle, moved smoothly along the highway with soft music playing on the radio. They laughed, talked, and made plans for the future, immersed in the happiness of the moment. Suddenly, on a sharp curve, a truck appeared unexpectedly in the wrong lane. David tried to swerve, but the collision was unavoidable. The impact was brutal, causing the car to flip over several times before coming to a stop, completely destroyed. The sound of twisting metal and breaking glass filled the air, followed by a terrifying silence. Inside the car, David was unconscious, his head slumped to the side. Stephanie, gravely injured, felt excruciating pain in her legs trapped under the wreckage. The smell of fuel and burnt oil mixed with the air, adding to the desperation of the moment. She tried to call out to David, but her voice was barely more than a weak whisper. The minutes that followed seemed like an eternity. Stephanie, fighting against the pain and the growing sensation of fainting, heard sirens in the distance. The first responders arrived quickly, cutting through the metal to free the couple. David was taken out first, still unconscious and with a pale face. Stephanie, with tears in her eyes, was rescued next, feeling a momentary relief at being freed from the crushed car. Both were rushed to the hospital, where a team of doctors and nurses awaited them. David was taken directly to the emergency room, while Stephanie, with her legs severely burned and crushed, was taken to the intensive care unit. The doctors began treating her injuries, trying to stabilize her while monitoring her vital signs. At the hospital, the extent of David's injuries soon became clear. The impact on his head had caused severe trauma, resulting in temporary blindness. He woke up days later, surrounded by darkness, not fully understanding what had happened. Stephanie, still recovering, was informed of David's condition and felt her heart break. The accident not only physically changed David and Stephanie's lives, but also marked the beginning of a new and painful journey. What should have been a celebration of love and unity turned into a battle for survival and adaptation to a new reality. However, even in the face of this tragedy, Stephanie maintained an unwavering determination to care for David and rebuild their lives together. Back home, David and Stephanie's lives turned into a daily struggle. David, now blind, depended on Stephanie for everything. His blindness left him disoriented and vulnerable, making even the simplest tasks monumental challenges. Moving around the house, once a trivial activity, became a minefield of invisible obstacles. With each stumble and fall, the reality of his new condition became more painful. Stephanie, on the other hand, had to take on all domestic and financial responsibilities. Her own wounds were high curatorosmetic, but she didn't let her pain show. Her days began before dawn and ended late at night, divided between caring for David and working at the restaurant to keep the bills paid. She did this with silent determination, hiding her struggles behind a reassuring smile. The routine at the restaurant was exhausting. Stephanie worked double shifts, often pushing herself to the point of exhaustion to ensure nothing was lacking at home. Her colleagues noticed her tired expression, but she always responded with an automatic, "I'm fine," not wanting to reveal the extent of her suffering. Every dish prepared, every table served was a reminder of a life now seemingly on hold. At home, The situation was no less challenging. Stephanie had to anticipate all of David's needs, from preparing his clothes to organizing meals. She strove to create an environment where he could feel as independent as possible, even if it meant sacrificing her own rest. The nights were particularly difficult, with David frequently waking up disoriented and Stephanie rushing to calm him. Additionally, their finances were in crisis. Medical bills piled up quickly, and Stephanie's salary was barely enough to cover basic expenses, let alone the additional costs of treatments and medications. She knew they needed a solution, but every attempt to find help felt like a losing battle. Despite all the pain and difficulty, Stephanie refused to give up. She firmly believed that somehow they would find a way to overcome these challenges. Each day, she rose with renewed determination, fueled by the love she felt for David. Her strength and resilience were a testament to the unshakable commitment they shared, even when everything around them seemed to be falling apart. As they fought to rebuild their lives, the bond between David and Stephanie grew stronger. They learned to cherish each small victory and to support each other in ways they had never imagined possible. The journey was arduous, but together, they continued to move forward, one step at a time, in the hope of better days ahead. As medical bills and daily expenses piled up, Stephanie began to realize that her salary from the restaurant would not be enough to cover everything. The financial tension was palpable, and the pressure on her shoulders increased each day. In a desperate effort to ease the burden, Stephanie made a difficult decision: to rent out part of their house to a tenant. That's when Thomas entered their lives. He seemed like a suitable choice at first, a calm man with seemingly solid references. He needed a place to stay, and, in return, could help pay the bills. However, what started as a temporary solution soon turned into a source of stress and fear. In the first few days, Thomas maintained a facade of respect and cordiality. He greeted David and Stephanie politely, keeping up the appearances of a good tenant. However, it soon became evident that Thomas had a serious drinking problem. At first, he would come home late at night, slightly intoxicated, but over time, his habits worsened. The quiet nights in the house were replaced by the sounds of slamming doors and breaking bottles. Stephanie, always careful, tried to hide these incidents from David. She knew he was vulnerable and didn't want to worry him more than he already was. Each morning before David woke up, Stephanie would get up early to clean up the remnants of the turbulent nights, ensuring the house was in order. Confrontations with Thomas became inevitable. He frequently came home in a deplorable state, bringing chaos and tension. One night, Thomas, completely drunk, had a fit of rage and assaulted Stephanie. She felt the pain and fear invade her body, but remained silent, unable to reveal the truth to David. Stephanie began to live in a constant state of alert, dreading the next episode of violence. She tried to hide her physical and emotional scars, always with a forced smile on her face. Nights, which were once a time of rest, turned into moments of vigilance and apprehension. Every sound in the dark made her heart race, but she refused to let David know what was happening. Despite everything, Stephanie maintained her determination. She believed that somehow she would find a way to resolve the situation without causing more pain to David. The hope of better days and the strength of the love she felt for him kept her steadfast, even when everything seemed to be falling apart around her. Thomas's presence was a constant shadow over their lives, but Stephanie continued to fight, determined to protect David and keep hope alive. Each day, she rose with a new dose of courage, ready to face another battle in her long journey of sacrifice and love. While Stephanie faced daily chaos and fear, a glimmer of hope silently shone in the background. David was undergoing experimental treatment, something the doctors hoped could restore his vision. Though uncertain and fraught with risks, the treatment offered a spark of hope amid the darkness enveloping their lives. For months, David underwent a series of therapies and medical interventions. Stephanie, always by his side, encouraged him at every step, even when her own strength seemed to wane. With each treatment session, David silently prayed for a miracle, to see again the face of the woman he loved so dearly and who made so many sacrifices for him. Then, on what seemed like an ordinary day, something extraordinary happened. David woke up with a different sensation. A faint light seemed to penetrate his closed eyelids. He opened his eyes and, for the first time in months, saw the light. Initially, it was just an indistinct glow, but gradually, shapes and colors began to emerge. He blinked repeatedly, incredulous as the world around him took shape. David sat up in bed, his heart racing with emotion. He called for Stephanie, his voice trembling with anticipation. Stephanie, busy in the kitchen, came quickly. Entering the room, she saw David sitting up, his eyes glistening with tears. He looked at her, truly looked, and the expression of pure joy and surprise on his face was unmistakable. "I can see," David said, almost in a whisper. Stephanie raised her hand to her mouth, tears filling her own eyes. She ran to him, hugging him tightly. The miracle they had both desperately hoped for had finally happened. However, as the joy of the moment enveloped them, David began to notice something that made his heart ache. He saw the signs of exhaustion and pain on Stephanie's face, the bruises she tried to hide. The signs that something terrible was happening became evident. The euphoria of having his vision restored was suddenly overshadowed by the realization that Stephanie was silently suffering. "Stephanie, what happened?" he asked, his voice full of concern. She tried to look away, but David gently held her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Please, tell me the truth." Stephanie, unable to continue hiding the reality, finally broke down. Through tears, she told him everything about Thomas, the nights of fear, and the assault she had endured. David listened with a heavy heart, guilt and anger mixing inside him. He couldn't believe that Stephanie had gone through all that alone. Determined to protect the woman he loved, David got up, now with renewed clarity. He went to confront Thomas, facing him without hesitation. David's presence, now with his vision restored and filled with determination, was enough for Thomas to realize that his time in the house was over. With a firm voice, David expelled Thomas from their home, ensuring he would never cause Stephanie suffering again. The miracle of restored vision not only brought light back to David's eyes, but also revealed the depth of Stephanie's love and sacrifice. Together, they began to rebuild their lives, free from Thomas's shadow, and stronger than ever. The miracle was not just the recovery of David's sight, but also the renewal of their commitment and love for each other. With Thomas out of their lives, David and Stephanie could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The constant tension that hung over them gave way to a sense of renewal and hope. David's restored vision brought with it a new perspective on life and the love they shared. Each day was an opportunity to start anew, to rebuild what had been broken, and to strengthen the bonds that united them. David, now able to see, resumed his work at the restaurant. Although the emotional and physical scars were still present, he dedicated himself with renewed determination. The joy of being able to work again and contribute to the family's support was immense. Each dish he served, each customer he attended to, was a testament to his resilience and will to move forward. Stephanie, in turn, also found new vigor. With David by her side, and without the burden of hiding her pain, she began to recover, both physically and emotionally. The wounds on her legs gradually healed, and the spark of her energy and passion for life returned. Together, they began to plan a future that once seemed uncertain. The mutual support between David and Stephanie became the cornerstone of their new life. They learned to value each moment, to celebrate the small victories, and to face challenges head-on. The house, which had once been a place of fear and tension, transformed into a home full of love and joy. Laughter echoed through the walls, and the sound of lively conversations replaced the heavy silence of the past. In time, David and Stephanie decided to invest in their own business. With the experience they had gained in the restaurant, they opened a small cafe, an old dream that now seemed possible. The cafe became a symbol of their journey and resilience. Customers came not only for the delicious coffee and pastries, but also to be inspired by the story of the couple who, against all odds, found happiness. For community around them was also touched by David and Stephanie's story. Friends and neighbors who had once seen only the surface of their lives began to understand the depth of their love and sacrifice. The couple's strength and unity became an inspiration, showing that even in the toughest circumstances, true love can prevail. David and Stephanie's new beginning was marked by a renewed commitment to honesty and transparency. They promised never to hide anything from each other again, understanding that true strength lay in their union and mutual trust. Every challenge was faced hand in hand. Every achievement was shared with a smile and a hug. And so David and Stephanie moved forward, building a life that was richer and more meaningful than they could have ever imagined. The miracle of David's restored vision was just the beginning of a new journey, a journey filled with hope, love, and the promise of a bright future. This is a story of resilience, unwavering love, and the strength to overcome adversity. David and Stephanie show us that even in the worst circumstances, determination and mutual support can transform lives. Together they faced challenges, rebuilt their hopes, and found new joy in each day. If you enjoyed this inspiring story of love and overcoming obstacles, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories like this. We want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below telling us what you think and how this story touched your heart. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next story.